encourage you to please take your seats.
Do you want me to open my belt?
No, you're okay. We'll just go. You're all set. You don't have to do anything. I've got it muted here, and then once you start, that's it.
Okay.
Do you have your, okay, do you want to grab your water, Neil?
Yes, please. Well, I'm going to just, well, they're going to, it's of whatever up here.
Yeah, okay.
Unless they're moving it. Because I've got long. I used to work in the oil patch.
Oh, yeah?
Often I'd get like on glass for the, you know, it's crazy. What's your name?
Adrian.
Hi, Adrian.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny Robinson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Brenda Strafford Foundation. I have also been the co-chair of the Strategic Advisory Group for the Dementia Friendly Community Pilot Project. It is my privilege to welcome you here today on the eve of the World Alzheimer's Day to celebrate the many far-reaching successes of the Brenda Strafford Foundation's Dementia Friendly Communities Pilot Project in Calgary West Hills and Okotoks. As our 2.5-year pilot project draws to a close, we are proud to launch today a guide to creating dementia-friendly communities in Alberta. According to Alberta Health's population estimates of dementia, as of March 31st, 2018, more than 45,000 Albertans are living with dementia. This guide will help other communities throughout the province to embark upon this journey, to increase awareness and education of dementia, to reduce stigma and provide enhanced support and inclusiveness for those living with or impacted by dementia in more communities throughout Alberta. Over the past 40 years, the Brenda Strafford Foundation has established ourselves as a leader in research and innovations in seniors' care. One of the Foundation's priority research themes is to enhance dementia care, with a focus on generating new knowledge to improve the quality of life of our residents living with dementia. As a charitable organization, our strategic priorities include using our expertise and resources to better meet changing community needs. We know that the population is aging, and we also know that people want to stay living in their homes as they age. Dementia-friendly communities are about mobilizing community resources and building the community capacity to do that. To support individuals living with dementia to age in place, to remain living in their homes, and stay active and well in their communities. Together, we must find innovative and community-focused solutions to ensure that we support the needs of individuals with dementia and their caregivers. Everyone has a role in helping find these solutions. It is essential for advocacy, action, and collaboration to happen at all levels. At the national level, earlier this year in June of 2019, the Public Health Agency of Canada released a dementia strategy for Canada. This federal strategy identifies common principles and national objectives to help guide action in Canada. Provincially, the Government of Alberta recently released their dementia strategy and action plan that is based around 4 key outcomes, including a focus to ensure Albertans living with dementia and their caregivers are supported in their communities. The Brenda Strafford Foundation is proud to have led the Dementia Friendly Communities project, the first of its kind in Alberta, positively contributing to local actions that advances both the national and provincial dementia strategies. From provincial partners to local community organizations and individual citizens, we are working together to ensure people living with dementia are enabled to remain at home safely and properly, supporting in the community for as long as possible. And we continue to be inspired by the many partners, such as yourselves, who are stepping forward to be part of the change. Together, we are paving the way towards dementia-friendly communities in Alberta. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ms. Norma Jackson, the Brenda Strafford Foundation's Chair of the Board of Directors, to deliver some words of welcome.
Thank you, Jenny. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Brenda Strafford Foundation, it is my pleasure to welcome you here today to celebrate the Foundation's Dementia Friendly Communities pilot project completion and its many successes. Today is a proud day for the Brenda Strafford Foundation. We are thrilled to share with you a guide to creating dementia-friendly communities. The guide is the culmination of 2.5-year pilot project that has taken place in Calgary's West Hill communities and in the town of Okotoks. Through our commitment to generating and sharing knowledge, the Foundation has documented this journey and the lessons we have learned along the way. To create this guide as a locally sensitive and evidence-based approach for the development of dementia-friendly communities throughout Alberta. This guide is also a legacy for the Foundation and this pilot project. It is a reflection of the significant effort and immense contribution of our passionate and dedicated community partners, many of whom are here today to celebrate this accomplishment with us. The project would not have been possible without the support and leadership of our provincial funding partners, the Government of Alberta, Ministry of Seniors and Housing, Alberta Health Services, Alberta Innovates. Later this afternoon, we will have the opportunity to hear from the Honourable Josephine Pon, Minister of Seniors and Housing, as well as representatives from Alberta Innovates and Alberta Health Services, who will share with us some reflections on the provincial impact of dementia-friendly communities. The project would not have been possible without the Foundation's strong partnerships with the communities where we operate. We have experienced firsthand and groundswell of support from community members who are ready to take action to ensure that their families, their friends and neighbors impacted by dementia are supported to maintain a high quality of life at home in their local communities. We would like to take this opportunity today to recognize and celebrate your significant contributions. And we look forward also to hearing from some of you directly on the Community Impact Panel, later in the program this afternoon. I would like to also congratulate the Brenda Strafford Foundation, President and CEO Mike Conroy, and his team for taking this idea, this opportunity 2.5 years ago, and culminating in this success. The key to the pilot project success, as well as scalability throughout the province and long-term sustainability, lies in the engagement of many partners working together on various levels. Thank you all for coming today. We hope you are as proud as we are of the work that has been achieved. And we hope that you leave here today with a renewed inspiration to continue on this journey. Together, we are leading the way towards a dementia-friendly future in a dementia-friendly Alberta. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. We are also honored to have a welcome message via a video from His Worship Mayor Naheed Nenshi. Too late. Come back? Okay, all right. We'll come back to the video. In the meantime, let's introduce Jennifer Malamo. Jennifer is the Dementia Friendly Communities Coordinator for the project, and those of you that know Jennifer would agree that the success of the project would not have been possible without her tireless energy, passion, and dedication. Hey, Jennifer. Jennifer will be providing a detailed overview of why we are all here today and taking us through the rest of the program this morning. Put your hands together for Jennifer.
Thanks, Jenny, for your kind words. Before I move on, I wanted to also acknowledge my counterpart, Emma Richardson. Emma's just up there. So from the beginning of the project, Emma was key in the West Hills. Well, she actually started in both communities, West Hills and Okotoks, and then received another opportunity, and so I'm bringing the project to completion, but couldn't have done this without Emma's hard work. Thanks, Emma. So as you've already heard, the goals of the DFC project were to mobilize community resources and enable people to stay in their communities longer and to feel supported in doing that. So a little later in the agenda, we will touch on some of the components of the project, and you'll see how all of these pieces came together. Just a little background on dementia. Many of you in the audience, and I know many of these faces, are very familiar with the statistics, and Jenny also touched on a few of those statistics. For every person diagnosed, another 10 to 12 people are directly impacted. That's family, friends, co-workers, people like all of us in the room today. A recent poll has suggested that people over 50 are actually more concerned about a dementia diagnosis than they are other health issues like heart disease, cancer, or diabetes. Fear and denial can mean people don't get a diagnosis. So throughout our project, we've met people in all stages of dementia and those questioning their own memories. And throughout this process, we have connected those folks with resources in our communities. Along the way, we've endeavored to ensure that we hear the voices of those who have been impacted by dementia, living within our communities, and we've done that through coordinating committees, memory cafes, community outreach events, and more. Understanding their stories, challenges, and how they cope has helped us refine the direction of the project with their insight. Having forums for people who are brave enough to share their stories helps to increase awareness and understanding and to reduce the stigma of dementia. And over the past, at one of our memory cafes, held monthly at the Okotoks Seniors Club, I met the Godfreys, a couple who are dedicated to making a difference in the lives of those impacted by dementia. Over the past few months, we've partnered to increase the awareness of dementia in the foothills, and their sharing has extended to Calgary and even beyond. And I'm grateful for their partnership in making communities more dementia friendly. So I'm honored to introduce Neil Godfrey, who knows firsthand the experience of living with dementia. Please join me in welcoming.
Checking to see if it was still morning, and it is. Good day, my name is Neil Godfrey. The title of my talk today is Managing My Life Through My Cognitive Distortion Resulting from Alzheimer's Disease. My subtitle is Perplexed but Not Without Hope, St. Paul, 2 Corinthians. My purpose today is to share my journey into early onset Alzheimer's and to educate you about Alzheimer's disease. I am 63 years old. I have 3 married children, 6 grandchildren, and 1 granddog. We live in Pritis. I worked in the oil patch as a geoscientist for 38 years. I was very competent with physics, science, technology. I was very comfortable before public speaking presentations. I am an artist of oil and watercolor. I'm an avid skier, hiker. I volunteer at a drug and alcohol rehab center in Pritis as a mentor currently. I retired from Encana at 55 years old. I consulted part-time with various companies until I finally retired again in 2015. 21 months later, I was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at the age of 61. What is Alzheimer's? It is the most common type of dementia. It is physical, progressive, degenerative disease of the brain where a protein amyloid plaque entangles cause the brain cells to die. It's not the same plaque as our teeth or in our hearts. It is a normal protein that starts normally to fold, causing blockage and death to the brain cells. Other types of dementia are vascular, Lewy body, frontal temporal lobe. My journey into Alzheimer's disease. At the age of 60, I began to notice cognitive issues. Instant evaporation of thoughts, searching for words or names, struggling with technology, general confusion. Often I would get disorientated. Familiar tasks weren't so familiar anymore. My organizational skills were failing. In the spring of 2016, tax preparation drove me to tears literally. I wept in my home office realizing something was happening to my brain. It was a sad, sobering moment. Late in 2016, at my annual physical, I presented my laundry list of cognitive failures to my GP. His response was, "That's normal, Neil, you're 60, and he sent me on my way. But I continued into the depths of my cognitive failure. I was regularly confused and disorientated, forgetting what I couldn't remember, or not remembering what I already forgot. Whew. I began to struggle with telling time. I often just guessed. I transitioned from a Roman numeral wristwatch to a watch with numbers then to a digital watch, all in about 2 or 3 months. In the spring of 2017, I was skiing at Nikiska with my ski boots on the wrong feet. I did not know that until lunchtime when I realized my folly. I have skied over for 50 years. In fact, I grew up in a ski family racing, and so it's very familiar for me, but I put my ski boots on the wrong feet. So I went back to my doctor with this new information. He gave me a mini mental cognitive test in his office. Count backwards from 100 by sevens. Draw a clock with all the numbers in the correct positions and set it at a designated time. Draw an assortment of three-dimensional geometric shapes. Remember this list of pictures on flashcards and to be remembered later on. No, I took a, sorry, one moment, please. I forgot what I can't remember. I failed miserably. I think I got 1 or 2. My doctor sent me for a CAT scan to eliminate a brain tumor. There was none. More scans, PET scan, MRI. Finally, I'm sent off to a doctor at the South Hospital, and I was diagnosed with a rare type of Alzheimer's disease called PCA, which is posterior cortical atrophy. So the blockage of my amyloid plaque is at the back right-hand side of my brain where vision is. So that explains, I'm going to just find that explains my ski boot story. Now my boots are marked with a big L and a big R. It also explains putting on my golf shirts backwards, but I recognize that right away as well. It also explains sometimes when I miss a letter in my name when I'm signing one of my paintings. The first time it happened, the purchaser called back and said, you left the I out of your name, Neil. And I said, well, I can change it if you'd like. And he said, no, thanks, it'll be worth more. That's a true story. This has happened about 5 or 6 times. And Joanne tells me it's not my brain, sorry, it's not my eyes, it's my brain. It also explains the problems I had as I wrote this speech on my laptop, searching for the letters on the keyboard. My neurologist told me that I have had Alzheimer's for several years prior to diagnosis without knowing it. Oh yeah, as I think in hindsight. That explains a lot. The day I was diagnosed, I was prescribed with a drug called Aricept. It is a medication. It's used for the treatment of symptoms for people with Alzheimer's disease. It works in the brain to improve thinking, memory, attention, and ability to do simple tasks. My neurologist told me, though, it will only work for several years. I consider myself a highly functional Alzheimer's patient on the outside, what you see. I currently present myself pretty normally in familiar social gatherings. But on the inside, sometimes it's a raging battle to connect my thoughts to words, my names to faces, my agenda to action. I still have issues of short-term memory, confusion, disorganization. I struggle with directions, instructions on how to or where to. It can cripple my brain. I make lists upon lists upon lists, and I tuck them away in safe places, never to be found again. The madness of it all. Early on in my diagnosis, I kept misplacing objects of importance. Now I use the basket system. As soon as I arrive home, my keys, my phone, my wallet go into the same basket. I know where to find it later. I also have a backup called Bluetooth, and it's a tile. So I've got little XYZs in my wallet and Joanne could track me down anywhere. I want to make a comment about stress and anxiety. Any kind of stress can now cause me to be anxious, which is new for me. I've always been a confident person. The beast of anxiety can rule in simple tasks that once were ordinary and unassuming. From unfamiliar roads to tax preparation, public speaking, or any technological device, remote control, an iPhone, GPS, a computer, I am now somewhat stupefied and mystified by these devices. I have to count on Joanne a lot. I manage my anxiety by managing my stress. I should stop looking up because I lose my page here. It saddens me. Things that were normal aren't normal anymore. I need assistance, but I'm not ashamed. It is what it is. New situations, new people, which I handled very well historically, now I avoid. The main categories currently that affect me, and ultimately Joanne, are my cognitive impairment, my memory loss. It's not that I don't remember, but often I can't remember. Often a lost thought is lost for good. Simple tasks that I once mastered are now a chore. Often I need help from Joanne, just frustrated, or I get just frustrated and give up. I struggle with directions, mostly where to, in the mall, on a trail that I'm hiking, and in the world of, I lived in the world of maps, and now I can't navigate through maps anymore. I need some help. I talk about my behavior changes. I have transitioned from a big E extrovert to a small I introvert. I shy away from some social gatherings as they can be stressful. Once a very confident, socializing man, now I am reserved in new or large social situations. I can get frustrated and moody because I can't do what I once did. I manage my life. I make decisions, simple and complicated decisions. I am a shadow of my former self. Familiar is a key word for most Alzheimer's patients. I edit my life. I make choices on who and how many in social situations. I avoid stress, which causes anxieties, so I manage my life the best I can, but there's always a blind side. I can get cognitively overstimulated and emotionally burnt out, especially if I do too much in one day. My limit is 2 events. A couple of episodes of the TV show American Pickers, and I'm back in normal. Crazy, I know. I can feel lost, marginalized, invisible in a crowded social situation. I try to focus on things that I can do, not the things that I can't do. I ski regularly at Nikiska. I've already renewed my pass. I hike in other seasons. In fact, I'm leaving on Sunday to go camping by myself at McLean Creek. I'm an artist, and I love to get away to paint. Photo references. I taught a 4-week watercolor class last November to 12 students. Last fall, I spoke to the University of Graduation class of neurologists at the Foothills Hospital. I continue to volunteer at Teen Challenge as a mentor. I have shared my Alzheimer's story at 3, now 4 libraries, and somewhere else, Joanne? Several other places. I've got a couple more appointments, churches, others. The churches are interested to listen to the story, or it's a great venue anyway. I want to talk about Drive Able. I requested this is rare, I think. I requested a driving test myself from my doctor, from a company that just does cognitive driving tests for people like myself or elderly. And I passed it, and that was good, but that doesn't mean I'm going to drive on every road. So I edit everything, so I only drive on my familiar roads. I'm born and raised in Calgary. I've probably got, a good 70 familiar roads that I can get around. Except if you've been out west where we live in Pritis, there are so many changes on Highway 22, it's a disaster for me. Drug trials I'd like to talk about now. Over the years, diagnosis of Alzheimer's has improved, but so far all clinical trials have failed. I recently participated in a Biogen drug trial for early onset Alzheimer's. I received an infusion every month, MRIs every 6 weeks. The drug did a great job of vacuuming out the nasty amyloid protein plaque. But the drug, it made it to stage 3, but the drug study was canceled because the drug did not stop cognitive impairment. That's why it was canceled. As we age, it is very important to be aware of our own cognitive fitness. Historically, Alzheimer's and dementia were taboo to talk about. It was hidden, denied, embarrassing, shameful, even a curse. Today, many people still live in the shadows of dementia. It is not talked about. It is covered up. Those affected ignore it or hide it, hoping that no one will notice. I encouraged my younger brother, 3 years younger than I, to go to get a mini mental from his doctor. The doctor queried him and said, "Paul, what's wrong with you? Are you struggling cognitively?" He said, "Oh no, I want a baseline." The doctor said, "Great idea, come back every 3 years." Getting a baseline from your MD doctor can be a good thing. At least it can give you a baseline. We recently did a DNA test from 23andMe. It included all the health and medical markers that we were possibly concerned about. But my neurologist tells me that most Alzheimer's is spontaneous or random, not hereditary. It's less than 5% that are due to grandma and grandpa. I did get an interesting surprise on my genetic ancestors. On my paternal side, I'm on the same bloodline as King Richard III of England. True? Never met him, though. And I'm also, on my mother's side, I'm on the same bloodline as Napoleon. And I also found out I'm 4 generations away from 100% Jewish blood. So I knew my grandpa was Jewish, but I didn't know how close it was to the whatever. I'm still Neil. I'm relational, authentic, intentional, transparent, living with a purpose. The dream of our golden years has changed, but we hope to navigate this journey with dignity, educating ourselves and others with the reality of this ugly disease. The movie That I'm Still Alice is very similar to my storyline, so if you haven't watched it in a while or ever, it's a worthy watch. We are proactive, we're planning ahead, simplifying, utilizing our time wisely, making family memories. What gives me hope every day is my strong Christian faith in Jesus. He is my anchor, my peace in the storm. My hope is in the resurrection. Joanne is the love of my life, my compass, my trusted care partner. She now carries the load of the household responsibilities. She encourages me, educates me, protects me. She loves me as I am, and as I will be. Our motto is boots on, eyes wide open. If you know people in your life with Alzheimer's, treat them with love, grace, dignity, patience. Be understanding. Visit them. Treat them normal. It's not contagious. Spend time with them. Include them. Be an advocate for them. Just a little short version, and then I'm done here. Just some diet. The MIND diet, which is a combination between I don't know what diet it is, a Mediterranean DASH diet. Anyways, it really involves a lot of vegetables, berries, grains, olive oil, beans, poultry, all the good food. If it's bad food, you shouldn't have it because it could help building up gunk in your brain. Okay, last comment. Even broken crayons can still color.
Thanks, Neil. We will acknowledge Neil in just a moment, but we're going to open the floor to any questions that anyone in the audience may have of Neil related to his experience with Alzheimer's. Yes. So just to sort of paraphrase the question is how to interact with someone, what would make it easier to have a conversation and interact?
If you were talking to me, I'd probably be encouraging you, because that's who I am. But I understand the question. So if it was someone else who was further along in their failures, like I said, treat them with dignity, drive them if they need to be driven someplace, and if they're people that you know, if it's people you know, just love them and comfort them. And sometimes they want to do crazy things or something, and join them, drive them there. Familiar things is really important, I think, for Alzheimer's. And so say grandma might want to go for a trip to Drumheller or something because she loves that, or, that kind of stuff, eh? Think about what they would like, not what you would like.
Good advice. Any other questions? It's got to be one.
Do you have a question?
Well, I have a question that I could ask of the audience if anyone has any input, and that is, how could communities better support people in these circumstances? So along the same lines as Tara's question, which was personally. But of course, we're creating dementia-friendly communities. Any ideas as to how communities might be better able to support folks with dementia? Right, so just to paraphrase what you've said, Helen, is just bringing the community alongside the journey and determining what it is that's important to people who are experiencing symptoms of dementia. Yes. Go ahead. Thank you. So the comment was about the Memory Cafe in Okotoks, where I had the pleasure of meeting Neil and Joanne. And again, just identifying what's important in the community, as I'll be presenting shortly, but identifying what's important in the community that we can, the types of things that we can do to support folks. And yes, I'm right there with you, Linda, in terms of the pleasure of having met both Neil and Joanne. Yes, Lisa. So the question was if there is any program that Neil or Joanne is aware of that might offer support, or any other program that might be a good fit in this circumstance.
You have to go loud, Joanne.
There's a program called UQuest, but is more for people that need day work, that need respite. And so they go on outings and things like that. But at the moment, it's full. And they only can take a minimal amount of people. And Neil doesn't need respite at the moment. And so it's a great program, but it doesn't sort of catch people like Neil. We have also attended some support groups, and again, it's a little bit difficult to find support groups that are for early onset people. There are some out there. The conversation cafes have been sort of the click or the thing that have worked for us. They're once a month, they're in different parts of the city, and it's a way of getting to know people that are in the same situation as us and are early onset.
Thanks, Joanne. So I think we're identifying, and as we have throughout this project, is that there are still some gaps. We haven't met the needs of everyone yet, but some of what we're doing is paving the way for that. Yes? A question at the top. Can you hear me? Yes, in the white, yeah. Right, so the question is whether there is some sort of an online tool that would allow people with early onset or others to connect. Any insight on that? Okay.
There are large Facebook groups. I did join some of them, but as people progress, I found it very difficult to watch and see and listen to what was happening to other people. So just personally, I had to get off them, saying it was too hard on my heart.
I know that that is something that we are considering through the foundation in what we have learned along the way, and there are some tools that we're exploring to see whether there is a good fit for that. And I recognize that there are those challenges of always there being different people at different stages and it being emotionally draining to be involved in that. Yes?
So in response to that social media, there is a group, Canadian group called Dementia Advocacy Canada, which has monthly forums for people to get on. There is an organization called Dementia Advocacy Canada, which is made up of people living with dementia and their family members. It has a Facebook page, and once you become a member, they would email you with monthly talks that they have that you can listen to, and they talk. Last one was about yesterday night. There was a federal forum on dementia with the major parties being part of it. The one previous to that was talking about different activities or projects that are ongoing. UQuest was there speaking about that project. So it's helpful that way for information. It's not necessarily a support group. There's also Dementia Alliance International, which is made up of people living with dementia, most of them being early onset. And that group as well meets on has FaceTime or sessions that they meet on a monthly basis to talk about their individual situations, and they're supporting each other that way. But I did want to mention one other thing. Your question, Jennifer, about dementia community. My perspective is, rather than even just calling it dementia community, it's just an awareness that people are different. Each person has their own story. So if somebody comes into your restaurant or the bank or the grocery store and they're having difficulties, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be dementia. It could be anything. Just be aware that if you don't know their story, don't judge. And if you can do that, then you're all dementia friendly.
Absolutely. Thanks for your feedback, Daniel. Appreciate that. Yes. I'll give you the mic, Joelle, sorry.
Thank you, Jen. So my name is Joelle, and I've been blessed to start working on a program, our intergenerational program at Tudor Manor. I started once a week taking our 4 to 5-year-old children up and interacting with the residents upstairs. It's been such a success that now I am utilizing half of my work day to work with Sherry and Julie to now I am bringing some of the little ones. So we have 12-month to 6-year-olds, and we are going to Nottingham neighborhood, which is our dementia neighborhood. And I've done a lot of research with intergenerational, and I'm curious to know if this is something you have known or been any part of. It's just, I've had so many great testimonies from parents of these little children. You know, they're fearful, they're scared, they don't understand. And just from the 1 year of doing this program, they have best friends now up there. It brings me to tears to just see the innocence of this. So I'm really hoping that through all of this networking, we can maybe bring more of these programs to life. So thank you again.
Thanks, Joelle. So there will be an opportunity for more questions and answers beyond the project, and yes, intergenerational is a huge part, and really excited to see that in going on in all of our manors. We have time for maybe one last question directed to Neil. Thanks, Laurie. And so that was Asante Cafe and Dementia Talk. So for more information, chat with Laurie at the break. I won't attempt to recreate exactly what you said. Hopefully most people did hear it. So I'm just going to acknowledge Neil, and Neil's words this morning remind us why we're all here, why it is that we're doing what we're doing, and working to make our communities stronger and more inclusive so that people like Neil and all of us who have so much to contribute can continue to live their lives safely, supported by the community, and to remain as independent as possible. And clearly, Neil remains an important contributor to the community. You heard some of the things that he's engaged in, involved in supporting kids with addictions, and his painting and sharing all across Calgary and beyond through his volunteerism, his mentorship, and most recently his advocacy with dementia. So I'd like to acknowledge you, Neil, for not only for your time, but for your commitment to continuing to spread the word and about living with early onset and living with hope. I think that's a critical message. Also, just for sharing your heart with us. We're just so grateful that you come and you share your time and your heart, and just have a small token of our thanks for that.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
So I'm going to go into an overview of project successes, just to share some of what we have done over the past 3.5 years, and hopefully you will get a good sense of what it is that we've been up to. Excuse me for a moment, technical challenges. I just need to be able to move the slides. Okay, so I'm going to start off. I know that we have acknowledged our funders, but of course we would not be in the place that we are being able to offer the project without the contributions of Alberta Seniors and Housing, Alberta Health Services, Alberta Innovates, and the Brenda Strafford Foundation. So it's through them that we have made this project has been made available for those impacted by dementia in Okotoks and West Hills. I'm just going to check in. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Okay, so the goals of the project, most of you are very familiar because I see a ton of faces that I've seen before, so you've been alongside us through this journey. The project was designed to raise awareness and reduce the stigma of dementia, to build community capacity, really to help people support people to age in place in their own community. And of course, part of what we're here for today is to share the guide that we have developed and to spread and scale throughout communities in Alberta and potentially beyond. So we're quite excited to share that with you. So what was accomplished in dementia-friendly communities? We have a number of things here. I'm not going to get into all of it, but basically we looked at what resources currently are existing in our communities in each of the geographic areas of West Hills and Okotoks. We developed a lot of really fantastic, great partnerships, and I'll get into that. We trained a number of community sectors. A big part of that was public awareness and community events. Like Joelle was mentioning, the intergenerational piece is something that we worked on, still tons of opportunity in that area. You also heard mention of memory cafes, I'll speak to that, as well as we couldn't do any of this without our great group of volunteers, and I'm sure you've met some of them already today, and we'll have a chance to chat with them later. So this slide you will see showing up in the toolkit, which is in your package. And basically what we did was we divided the project into phases. We tapped into the knowledge base of a number of experts and other folks in the community through our steering committee, our strategic advisory group, our coordinating committees in West Hills and Okotoks, and through our working groups. And all of these groups have been instrumental in moving the project forward. And you'll have the opportunity this afternoon to meet some of the folks who've been alongside us through this journey and ask questions of them on the panel. And right now we are currently at Phase 6, Leave a Legacy. So in terms of developing partnerships, it would be impossible for me to mention all of the partnerships today. We've just had so much support in our communities, strong partnerships with many individuals and organizations, including the Calgary Fire Department and Alberta Treasury Branch, and they've just really had a huge impact. The Calgary Fire Department introduced an online dementia awareness model to 1,400 of the firefighters through the Alzheimer's Society of Canada. And ATB have piloted dementia training in 4 branches, including both pilot communities, as well as training all ATB branch managers in dementia training. The town of Okotoks has been a key partner in moving the project forward in Okotoks, and their involvement has encompassed many areas, including awareness, education, and caregiver support. Some of the other partnerships include the Alzheimer's Society, Dementia Network, Okotoks Seniors Club, Calgary Seniors Resource Society, CARIA, University of Calgary, and clinical neuropsychologist Dr. Cam Clark. Calgary and Okotoks Public Library, we're very fortunate, of course, to have this venue accessible to us, but also the Okotoks Library has been fantastic in hosting and allowing us to host events at no charge and assisting with bringing people to those events through awareness campaigns. So we appreciate all of you. Some of the training in the community sectors that we have done has included an overview of dementia and also a simulation, aging simulation exercise. And we have done training, Emma and I have done training with grocery stores, schools, drugstores, cafes and restaurants, and faith centers, as well as other community agencies. This slide is showing the aging simulation that was done in the town of Okotoks with our first responder group. And so that included fire, bylaw, frontline staff of municipal centers and rec centers, as well as EMS. Public awareness has been a big part of this. And so, of course, we needed to raise the awareness of dementia before we could carry on with some of our goals. And we felt that laying that groundwork was very important. So some of the means that we did that we accomplished that was through the community magazines. So specific to Okotoks, the Okotoks Living magazine, the Apple magazine was Calgary-wide and beyond, and Dementia Connections has been phenomenal in terms of spreading the word, and you will have all received a copy of Dementia Connections in your package, and love for you to go through that. Our community program guides in terms of the rec center, partnership with the rec center in town of Okotoks has been amazing for some of our memory and aging programs and some of the other programs. We've had excellent partnerships with the Okotoks Western Wheel and with the Eagle radio station and Calgary Herald, CBC, CTV. So obviously this is a topic of interest, but it's great to have those partners alongside to spread the news. Community outreach events were a critical part of our progress forward. So we started off with town hall events and project launch events. We attended a number of trade shows where we met some fantastic people, including a lot of the volunteers you'll see today, resource fairs, as well as conferences. The library speaker series, so I spoke briefly a moment ago about our partnership with the libraries. And what we did was we had ongoing speaker series where we would choose different topics and bring experts in to speak about them. Some of those topics included understanding dementia, dementia risk reduction, which was very well attended in both of our communities. Obviously, it's an interesting topic and very well attended. The navigating the system, we had a session on that. Caregiver supports, as well as young onset awareness. And of course, our session at the there was a session at the Sheep River Library and the Okotoks Public Library with Neil, who packed the house. And we were actually in the position of turning people away because the topic of young onset was obviously very important to people. Some of the intergenerational work that we have done includes training provided in the K-12 curriculum in a number of different schools. We've had the students visiting our Manners, or the Adult Day Support Program, and the Opening Minds Through Art program. Students had the opportunity for dementia awareness training as well. And it was really cool to see the art that they came up with, that the seniors are partnered one-on-one with seniors, and they come up with some incredible art, and there's a gala at the end. Very cool. You'll see that even some of the youngest kids here had the opportunity to contribute to seniors through events like Seniors Tea, and all the way up to high school students who had the opportunity to experience the aging simulation, and also to hear through our clinical neuropsychologist, Dr. Cam Clark. They had the chance to hear about what the potential career opportunities were for them. And so that was a nice linkage to folks who are in grade 10, 11, 12, who are considering what their next steps are. Caregiver support, connecting with caregivers and their loved ones is certainly something that's near and dear to my heart. And so having the opportunity to speak with those caring for their loved ones right through a dementia diagnosis is really a privilege, and that's something that a number of us in this room have had the opportunity to experience, and very thankful for that. Memory cafes have been successful in both pilot communities. We've had the First Lutheran Church hosting a memory cafe twice per month. And the purpose of a memory cafe is really for caregivers to bring their loved ones with dementia, for an opportunity for the loved one to get out and socialize, but also for the caregiver to get connected with other caregivers. And you heard Joanne say that that's been an important part of their journey. Everybody who's a caregiver is at a different place. Everybody who is experiencing dementia symptoms is also at a different place in their journey. And so just to have a network of people who are experiencing similar circumstances is very powerful. At our Okotoks Memory Cafe, you'll see on the left-hand side here, we had a demonstration by a Qigong instructor. Generally, the memory cafes are opportunities to informally socialize. Sometimes there are opportunities in the community that present themselves that you just can't turn down. It's really cool. At this memory cafe, we had the group divided in two. Half wanted to attend the Qigong demonstration and half wanted to sit and socialize. And Qigong is just one opportunity for people to release stress. And you heard Neil talking earlier about managing stress has a huge impact on the experience of dementia. I mentioned earlier volunteers. Throughout the project, we reached out to members of our community to volunteer with dementia-friendly communities in numerous ways. And some of these included memory cafes, trade shows, library speakers, events, and we just want to thank everyone who has contributed in a volunteer capacity. There are a number of people that I know in this room. You guys are really heroes, and thank you very much for everything that you have done for the project. And we hope that today, through this event, that you feel recognized and appreciated. Speaking of recognition, we have, among the ways that the project has been recognized for its success is the awarding of the Alberta Continuing Care Association's Innovator of the Year Award of Excellence to the Brenda Strafford Foundation, in part to the work, due to the work that was done through dementia-friendly communities. So something that I know Emma and myself are very proud of, as well as Navjot and the whole team, the whole BSF team. Also, as a result of their contribution to dementia-friendly communities, the Calgary Fire Department Community Safety Team was recognized by the City of Calgary at the One City Awards in the safety category, and that recognizes employees who have made life better every day through their work. And I know the fire department is well deserving of that. So once again, thank you to each of you who has, in their own way, had a part of the Dementia Friendly Communities project. We know that our work is making change in communities beyond West Hills and Okotoks, and There are a number of folks who are joining us today who are at different stages of taking on their own dementia-friendly communities in areas including Westlock, Innisfail, Red Deer, and I'm sure others. So when you have an opportunity to socialize across the lunch hour, please connect with those folks and support them in what they're taking on. So we will have an opportunity for some more question and answer, so I won't answer questions right now, but a little bit later in the program we'll have a chance to do that. And I'd now just like to provide the details for our lunch break. Before I do that, I know you're all keen to go get filled up on your lunch, but before I do that, I'd just like to give a glimpse into this afternoon's agenda. So we're going to host a panel discussion as I pointed out earlier, and so those will be a number of the folks who've had very integral roles throughout the project, and you'll have the opportunity to ask them some questions. And also some of those folks here who are considering implementing dementia-friendly communities in your own community, the folks who are on the panel are incredibly knowledgeable, so use that time across the lunch hour to formulate any questions that you might have for them. And following the panel, we will be very excited to share our guide to creating dementia-friendly communities, otherwise known as the toolkit, as well as the e-learning course that we developed. We have the pleasure of welcoming Honorable Josephine Pon, Minister of Seniors and Housing, for a few words, as well as a few words from our funding partners. So please stay for lunch and the afternoon program. So the buffet is, I'm hoping, all set up. I've got the thumbs up, all set up on the upper level. So there is access via the stairs. I know sometimes it's a little tricky to navigate those stairs. If you need help through an elevator, we will help direct you through the doors down here. So if you prefer that way, please check in with us. There is limited seating room at a few tables. Otherwise, you're welcome to bring your food back to the theater area, and please just take your garbage with you when you're done. Please enjoy the entertainment provided by up-and-coming country music artist and Okotoks resident, Michaela Sheedy. Hi, Michaela. Michaela has performed on stages including Big Valley Jamboree, Country Thunder, and the Calgary Stampede, and you may recognize her from singing our national anthem at the Calgary Flames. So we hope that you will enjoy that entertainment and that you'll take time over the break to look at some of the resources provided on our resource table, and we will reconvene for the afternoon program at 12:45. The buffet is now open.
And particularly for older citizens, we want to be able to help people live at home and live in the communities that they know and love for as long as possible. And that's why dementia-friendly community work is so important. By working with people in the neighborhood, whether it's local businesses or schools or
But I wish I could say that I live so hot that I melted, fell right through the cracks. I'm trying to get back before the cool done run and die. Be giving it my bestest. Nothing's gonna stop me but divine intervention. Reckoning to get my turn. Feeling something, learn some, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. Things can't hide away. I'm yours. Open up your mind and see like me. Open up your plans and damn you're free. Look into your heart and you'll find love, 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 love. Listen to the music of the moment, people dancing, sing. We're just one big family. Needs our couples, they can have to be love, 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 love. I won't hesitate no more, no more. Things can't hide away. I'm sure there's no need to complicate. Our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. I've been spending way too long checking my tongue in the mirror, bending over backwards just to try to see clearer, but my breath fogged up the day. So I turn my face and guess what I've been saying is there ain't no better reason. Rid yourself of vanities and just go with the seasons. It's what we aim to do. Our name is our virtue, but I won't hesitate no more, no more. This can't hide away. I'm sure there's no need to complicate. Our time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. So I won't hesitate no more, no more. This can't hide away. I'm sure there's no need to complicate, 'cause the time is short. This is our fate. I'm yours. Head down south to the land of the pines, thumbing my way out of North Carolina. Staring up the road, pretty God, I see headlights. Laying down the coast in 17 hours, picking me a bouquet of dogwood flowers. Hoping for I could see my baby tonight. So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, anywhere you be. Hey, mama, rock me. City, Tennessee. I gotta get a move on before the sun. Hear my baby calling mommy, and I know that he's the only one. If I die right, at least I will die free. So rock me, mama, like a wagon wheel. Rock me, mama, let it feel. Hey, hey, mama, rock me. Rock me, mama, like the wind in the rain. Rock me, mama, like a southbound train. Hey, hey, mama, rock me. Hey, hey, mama, rock me. Little moonlight dancing on the sand. The warm breeze blowing by the ocean as you take my hand. And you need to know where I'm standing at. 'Cause I'm right on the edge of giving into it. Baby, it's a long way down. If I fall, can you let me down easy? If I leave my heart and you're not, will you promise me that you're gonna treat it right? Baby, hanging on. 'Cause if I fall, can you let me down easy? Let me down easy. Scent of your perfume floating in the air, looking like an angel lying on a blanket with a halo of hair. And those things too good to be true. And once I taste that kiss, I know what'll happen. I'll be at the mercy of you. If I fall, can you let me down easy? If I leave my heart with you tonight, will you promise me that you're gonna treat it right? Baby, hanging on. 'Cause if I fall, can you let me down easy? Let me down easy. If I fall, can you let me down easy? If I leave my heart with you tonight, will you promise me that you're gonna treat it right? Barely hanging on. 'Cause if I fall, can you let me down easy? If I fall, can you let me down easy? If I fall, can you let me down easy? just one thing, only thing I wanna do. I wanna love somebody like you. Wanna feel the sunshine shining on me and you. When you put your arms around me, you let me know there's nothing in this world I can't do. Times it's hard for me to understand. One step forward and two steps back. Couldn't walk a straight line, even if I wanted to. I wanna love somebody like you. Wanna feel the sunshine shining on me and you. When you put your arms around me, you let me know there's nothing in this world I can't do. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand. Teaching you to be a better man. Don't wanna take this life for granted like I used to do. I wanna love somebody like you. I wanna love somebody like you. I wanna love somebody like you. I've been down, I've been weak, been so tired, could not speak, been so lost, I could not see wanted things that were out of reach. Then I found you and you helped me through and you showed me what to do. That's why I'm coming back to you. Like a star, got dashing across the ocean. It's how your love take me home, back to you. And if I wish upon a star, someday I'll be where you are. And I know that day is coming soon. Yeah, I'm coming back to you. Been show it, been in pain, did not know it, let me do, I needed to, you were there when I needed you, I let you down, I messed you around, so never change your point of view, that's why I'm coming back to you. Like a star, got to ship across the ocean. It's how your love took me home, back to you. If I wish upon a star, someday I'll be where you are. And I know that day is coming soon. Yeah, I'm coming back to you. I let you down, I messed you around, never changed your point of view. That's why I'm coming back to you. Yeah, like a star, got the ship across the ocean. Tell your love, take me home, back to you. If I wish upon a star, someday I'll be where you are. And I know that day is coming soon. Yeah, I'm coming back to you. I wanna sweep you off your feet tonight. I wanna love you and hold you tight. Spin you around on some old dance floor. Act like we never met before. For fun. 'Cause you're the one who wants, you're the one who need, baby. If I was a king, you would be my queen. You're the rock and the roll. Good for my soul, it's true. I'm head over boots for you. They sparkle like a diamond ring. Maybe one day we can make it a thing. This time we go all together. Rocking our chairs and talk about forever. Yeah. Bring it on my name. That angel cares. Get that feel good on my lips. 'Cause you're the one I want. You're the one I need, baby. If I was a king, you would be my queen. You're the rock and the roll. Good for my soul, it's true. I'm head over boots for you. Well, I'm here to pick you up and hope I don't let you down. No, no. 'Cause you're the one I want, you're the one I need, baby. If I was a king, you would be my queen. You're the rock and the roll. Good for my soul, it's true. I'm head over boots for you.
We're taking your cover.
Hello? 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 Oh, hello everyone. Can I encourage you to please take your seats? We'll get started shortly. Hello everyone. I encourage you to please take your seats and we'll get started.
I'm going to put my cup there.
Okay. Well, welcome back from lunch, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the live entertainment by Michaela Sheedy and made the most of some time to network. Before I welcome the panel, I just want to, let's take two on the video from His Worship Mayor Nahid Nenshi.
Hi, it's Mayor Nahid Nenshi here, and I'm so sorry that I cannot join you in person to celebrate the wrap-up of this extraordinary pilot project on dementia-friendly communities. As we all know, our population is aging. Seniors are healthier and living longer than ever before. But that also means that more people are living with dementia. And particularly for older citizens, we want to be able to help people live at home and live in the communities that they know and love for as long as possible. And that's why dementia-friendly community work is so important. By working with people in the neighborhood, whether it's local businesses or schools or faith groups or community associations to create dementia-friendly communities, we can do so much good for those living with dementia. So I want to say congratulations to all of you for participating. I understand you've created guidelines that any community can adopt, and I think that is extraordinary work with really high impact. So thank you for doing all you've done, and let's make every neighborhood a dementia-friendly community.
So a great morning this morning with Jennifer's overview of the project, and a thank you to Mr. Godfrey. Neil's wonderful presentation, who spoke eloquently and bravely on his experience. I've never watched American Pickers before, but I think I'll start. It is now my pleasure to introduce Brenda Carroll. Brenda is the administrator at the Brenda Strafford Foundation's Tudor Manor Supportive Living Seniors Residence in Okotoks. She has also been actively involved as co-chair of the Okotoks Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition Local Coordinating Committee. Brenda will be hosting our Dementia Landscape Community Impact Panel.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you to all our panelists that have joined us today. The individuals that you see before you are a select group of folks that have been involved in the project in both of the pilot sites. They bring to the table many perspectives and have stories to share about how this project has moved forward, how this project has made a difference for them as professionals or community members or family members of loved ones living with dementia, and also how this project has changed communities. So thank you all for your participation today. I will go through each of the individuals, introduce them, and I have specific questions for them. I would invite the panel members to participate in answering any of the questions that they have something to add. And we will, at the end of the session today, have some time for our members in the audience to ask some questions and answers of our panel members. First up, I have Brian Giltz. Brian is a family caregiver and co-chair of the Dementia Friendly Communities Coalition Coordinating Committee in the West Hills community. Welcome, Brian. Brian, your participation with Dementia Friendly Communities Initiative was as an active member of the Calgary West Hills Coordinating Committee and as a family caregiver who was directly impacted by a loved one with dementia living in that community. This has been a very personal topic for you and a very personal journey. How do you see your role in the project helping to recognize the needs of those impacted by dementia?
Well, my mother was diagnosed about a decade ago with dementia, and I guess I really got involved because of her, and she still continues to be my inspiration as I move forward with this particular project. I often take time to sort of reflect in terms of some of the, I guess, paths that we are going to embark upon as a committee, or, well, as a committee. And I think it's been really a learned experience to listen to those people who are living with dementia. I brought my skills, I guess, as a caregiver, a family caregiver. My mother lives with me, and it has been an odd kind of blessing to have her remain a part of my life physically within our home. When I first got going, I was approached by one of the adult program director at Beauview Manor, and she says, I think you might be interested in this project that Brenda Strafford is going to embark upon. To which I said to myself, maybe. I'm not really sure. Anyway, I made the commitment to go to their town hall. From there, I made a commitment to going to their first meeting. And from that point, I really began the journey with what was happening with dementia-friendly communities. Just so much has happened in 2 years. It's kind of unbelievable in a way that we are where we are. But I think that if you were here for this morning, you will understand the number of people who worked with this committee, and same I think with Okotoks as well. Community leaders, government representatives, business folks, all came to the table with immense knowledge, and I guess I speak personally that I so valued that. And I'll share this odd kind of story with you. When I took on the position as co-chair of the committee, I was also, I guess, embarked upon kind of a journey with trying to figure out in our communities where are we going to go with this, and who is going to be a part of this journey. And it was kind of odd, but one day I was having a conversation with my mother, and I said to her, you know, there is some concern by the residents in our complex that vehicles are zooming through, and you know, I was getting a bit concerned from a safety perspective. And so I shared that with her, and it didn't really resonate, and she sort of, okay, oh, whatever. And I know that she has love of little animals, so I said to her, well, what would you think, you know, if we should put up some road signs in the complex so we can ensure that the little bunnies don't get run over? And she said, well, you know, you'd have to teach them how to read. And I thought, you know, yeah, got a point. So that really helped me decide early on with the committee that we had to start looking at dementia-friendly communities from different perspectives. And so I share that because all the people up here and many of you who've been a part of this, I so value your participation. And I guess it sort of brought us today where we now have a kit that would be available. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. I think, Brian, you've touched on something that's so important, is the perspective piece on this. And I don't think this project could have been nearly as successful as it has been without the participation of family and family caregivers and individuals living with dementia, because we could guess at what we think are the interventions and the things we can do to make a dementia-friendly community. But until we really hear from people like yourselves and family members, we don't know what really is going to make a difference. So thank you so much for your participation. Next on our panel, I have Pat McIsaac. Pat is a deputy fire chief with the town of Okotoks, and he's a member of our Okotoks Coordinating Committee. Pat, the town of Okotoks takes pride in being resilient and aims to be a place where people, businesses, ideas, and sense of communities thrive. How is the town's involvement in pioneering the DFC pilot project in Okotoks helping to achieve this? And how have you been involved in the project in your role?
dementia is just one of the challenges that communities face. But in order to become resilient, communities need to be develop the capacity to overcome these challenges. So, from our perspective, creating a livable, welcoming Okotoks that is inclusive of our residents with dementia is going to pay dividends by reducing stressors for the family, reducing stressors for the resident themselves. It's going to reduce stressors on the healthcare system. We become more inclusive. We have our employees and our business community, neighbors, neighborhoods, and friends are engaged in looking after and some of our most vulnerable population. We've noticed too that some of the dementia-friendly principles behind the strategies that we implement have tangible benefits for other vulnerable populations. Clear, well-lit, well-signed pathways are certainly a benefit to our residents with a disability. Some of the signage and messaging and communications techniques that we've implemented and promote are a benefit to new Canadians or people with whose English isn't their first language. So when we look back on it, a lot of the strategies that we implemented and are promoted are common sense type strategies, and they certainly have benefits far beyond our residents and families with dementia, and being able to look after ourselves in our town makes us more resilient.
And I think Neil spoke a lot about, or touched on at least, sort of some of the social isolation that can come with living with a diagnosis of dementia, both for himself and his family members. And so I think building those relationships in the community and fostering that inclusivity goes a long way to help overcome some of the isolation that can happen in communities for residents and family members living with dementia. Thank you, Pat. Derek Arthurs is a community safety officer from the Calgary Fire Department and a key champion of the DFC project through his involvement with the DFC West Hills Coordinating Committee. Derek, we know that first responders play a vital role in keeping people safe in the community. Can you provide us with any examples of situations where the firefighters have utilized the dementia training offered through the DFC project?
Definitely. So just to take a step back, all first responders throughout the province, throughout the world, encounter individuals with dementia every day. And a lot of the times our first responders are being called to emergency situations where the situation is escalated, and often it's difficult to identify if somebody actually has dementia. Often if it's a medical call and somebody's unconscious, or a car accident and somebody needs to be extricated, it's difficult to actually identify if someone in fact has dementia. But over the 2.5 years that I've been involved with the Dementia Friendly Community Project, I have learned of virtually every week, if not every day, new stories of our firefighters responding to calls involving folks with dementia. And those are both in emergency situations as well as non-emergency. We have examples for everything from seniors wandering from home, getting stuck in waist-deep snow, in ravines in minus 25 weather, to medical calls where seniors are extremely agitated, and by receiving some of the awareness training, our first responders recognized something as simple as a ring on an individual's finger. For example, they noticed an older gentleman who was wearing an engineering ring on his pinky, and even though the firefighters were there for a medical call where he had difficulty breathing, just by starting that conversation about asking him if he was an engineer, and it just completely turned the situation to calming him down, and he had a conversation, and the next thing you know, he was breathing easier, and it was all a result of this awareness training. But with that being said, I'll just share one final story of this past summer that actually was quite unique in that it didn't involve our frontline crews, but it actually occurred out at our fire training academy, which is out off near Forest Lawn in southeast Calgary, 52nd and 17th Ave. And 7 o'clock in the morning, back in the summer, our training officers arrived at work, and they looked out into the sort of our training area where we have a little village that we call the Atco Village. It's abandoned houses that our firefighters do our search and rescue and practice putting out fires and that. And there was about an 80-year-old woman wandering around in her slippers and her house coat at 7 o'clock in the morning. So they recognized that she was a little out of place. So they made their way over, spoke to her, and realized she didn't know where she was. She also could not speak English. Turned out that she was Vietnamese with no English at all. So they invited her to come back into our Fire Training Academy main building. They offered her a cup of tea and phoned 911 to get the police on their way. And they were also able to activate a interpreter on the phone. So not only were they recognized that she had dementia, and also they were dealing with sort of that language barrier. But by the time the police arrived, they had sort of identified that the woman lived in Calgary and her son was a realtor. So on their cell phone, they were scrolling through trying to find Vietnamese realtors, and sure enough, they were able to figure out who her son was. And when the police arrived to assist, they passed on all that information, and in fact had the phone number of her son and that. So our encounters with citizens here in Calgary happen every day, and we often think that it's strictly those emergency situations, but often it's in the most unique and interesting locations.
Thank you. And, you know, I think having the awareness and the training gives your officers that comfort to approach a situation and keep it from escalating to something that's emergent, and be able to minimize the stress. And as we heard Neil talk about, that stress sometimes can exacerbate the challenges that come with living with dementia. So having that calm, reasoned approach and having that comfort, knowing they have that training in their toolbox, certainly probably assists throughout the day and throughout the years. Thank you. Tara Adams is the Corporate Wellness Manager in the People and Culture Department at ATB. And she is also a member of the DFC West Hills Coordinating Committee. Tara also facilitated ATB's involvement in both pilot communities. And Tara, I'd like to get your comments on why dementia awareness training offered through the DFC project was important to ATB, and what have you learned, and what is the impact on your teams and your customers?
Thank you. That's 3 questions. Well, we were invited to volunteer to be part of the community partners, and there's so many of them. And I think because there was such a natural fit to the goals of the pilot with ATB's values and culture, and I just want to have a nice shout out. We have 4 branches at ATB who volunteered to participate, and we have people here from all 4 of those ATB branches: West Springs, West Hills, Okotoks, and Walden Gate. Marissa, Jordan, Gio, Sam, and Vanessa. So I feel like I'm on So You Think You Can Dance. So there they are. So I'm just the one sitting here, but in fact, we had 4 branches who participated. And the feedback from the teams that volunteered is that this really fit with our ATB culture, which in fact is all about listening. And in fact, the foundation of the training, from what I understand, and I was also trained, is a lot about some empathy, connecting, and listening. So we pride ourselves on being more than a bank, on being obsessed with our customers and connecting and listening. So that's where the fit came in. And so as these branches came forward and volunteered and they were trained, then we, maybe not quite as colorful as the stories of Derek. I always say I don't want to go after Derek. I'm always after Derek. But we also had some beautiful stories where we were just better able to connect not only with the people living with dementia, but in particular the caregivers who are trying to manage perhaps banking for somebody with dementia. Maybe it's a power of attorney, things like that. And, my job is to increase the confidence of our team members and lower their stress. That's what wellness managers do. And I feel like the project increased the confidence of the people at those branches and just gave them more confidence to connect.
Thank you. And ATB has been a phenomenal partner in this project, and I think the work that has been taken on by your ATB teams will make a valuable difference to the communities that they serve. Cheryl Lynn Carlson is a dedicated volunteer who has been part of the Okotoks pilot project since the beginning. Sherilyn, if you could share with us what are some of the most rewarding aspects of the DFC project that you've experienced to date as a volunteer?
I sure can. First, I want to shout out to the fire department. My mom had dementia. Now I'm going to get emotional. She passed, and they were the ones that found her. And I thank you. You guys broke in the door. You picked her up and took her to safety. Thank you. Now, go on. I had to say that because it is so important, and just like anything, first responders don't get thanked as much as they so deserve it. For me, I've been volunteering with the project right from day one because I made a promise to my mom that I would do anything I could and anything I can, whether it be small, little, anything, to help anyone that experiences dementia, whether it's family, caregivers, themselves, anyone. So seeing the difference we've made in the community in the last 2.5 years has been wow. The memory cafes, man, if you can get out to one of them, it's just a must. It's just a must. Seeing someone here that attends one of our cafes, when I saw him, he gave me a great big hug, like wow. I was in the dollar store after one of our cafes. It had been hours had passed, and this lady, I saw her face light up, and she looked at me, and she was like, Cheryl Lynn? I'm like, yeah. I remember you. You were so kind. And that just filled my heart, right? Like that's what it's all about. Being able to help. Well, being able to help. That's just huge. Education is the key. And by giving people, responders, community members, people that work at the bank, the drugstores, anywhere, instead of going, oh, that bleep, 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 going, oh, hang on, you know what? Maybe I can help this person, and maybe I can turn that grocery list around, or I can actually help them find what they're looking for in the pharmacy, help them home, notice that they're lost, and that's just been hugely rewarding for me. And Jennifer, I can't say enough to you.
Thank you. And I think that truly, you've hit on something that is a quintessential part of this program, is trying to provide people in the community with the knowledge, the skills, and the tools to be able to help and to reduce the stigma and give people that courage and overcome any fear that they might have had before, so that we can step in and help our residents and our resident family members to thrive in our communities. Thank you, Sherilyn. Your participation has been invaluable. Kevin Powell is a pastor at First Lutheran Church and a member of the Calgary West Hills Coordinating Committee. Kevin, First Lutheran is hosting memory cafes to serve the Calgary West Hills dementia friendly communities. How are the memory cafes positively impacting community and potentially the church? And what impact do these cafes have for caregivers?
Well, first of all, I'm here instead of Liz Gahan, who's one of our staff members who heads up our Memory Cafe and the Dementia Friendly Community stuff. She's traveling through Europe. She didn't want to come back for this, so she sent me. One of the things that we've noticed at First Lutheran is, in terms of community, is building community both inside and outside the congregation itself. Within our own congregational community, we have volunteers participating with cleanup and just conversation and such, setting up, as well as providing music for the background, as well as our Suzuki school that's housed in our building. Came quite a few times. Brian participates in our Memory Cafe at First Lutheran. And was it in August? There was more musicians than there were participants, because we sent out a notice to the parents of the Suzuki school, say, hey, we have this Memory Cafe, and this is what it is. If you want to provide music, that's awesome. So I was sitting in my office, and all of a sudden this army of children started walking in with their instruments, and I'm thinking, did they have some sort of concert or something? Apparently they did, and it was at the Memory Cafe. And I thought it was just a wonderful sight to see this connection between young people and folks participating. As well as we've been able to participate with other members in the community. Rundle College was a beginning partner when they came to our initial gatherings, which was wonderful to see the young people connecting with those who are participating. And also, another way that has been there's been some crossover is that around the time the Memory Cafe is starting, so is our seniors yoga class. And after our seniors yoga class finishes, they join folks at the Memory Cafe, and they have muffins and cookies and stuff right after they've done yoga. And I think that's an absolute wonderful way for the two parts of our programming to connect. And so it's a wonderful thing to see. And even beyond, this has been an opportunity for us to build connections and partnerships outside the faith communities, which has been one of our priorities over the last 5 years. We've been kind of siloed in our own, religious bubble, Lutheran bubble, but now we're branching out and developing really deep, positive partnerships within the community for all the people we've been meeting through this work. So it's been a wonderful community expression. Yeah.
Thank you, and I think that intergenerational component was something that we felt was key to the success as well, in that, whether it's through our VIK daycare at Tudor Manor or through community partnership events like Memory Cafes and gathering points, raising our young folks to not have a stigma or fear or generalizations about folks with any kind of, memory or cognitive dementia, and being able to have that understanding and that interaction is really a key. So thank you for your involvement and your church's support of the Memory Cafes and the project. Helen Lightfoot is a provincial practice lead, and this is a handful, for the Seniors Health Strategic Clinical Network and coordinating the Primary Healthcare Integrated Geriatric Service Initiative.
Congratulations.
I had to practice that a few times. And its short form is FIGC. So there you go. Could you please provide an overview of FIGC and how this partnership with communities can help spread the scale of the DFC project in Alberta?
Thanks so much. So just in terms of that name, primary healthcare is around your doctors and the teams that support your doctors. So that's the part of that name. And then integrated geriatric services. So in our initiative, what we're doing is helping rural communities recognize and diagnose dementia, frailty, and other geriatric syndromes at an earlier and earlier stage, and then also developing plans to support them within their communities that they live. Part of the work that we're doing really has two focuses with it. One we're calling vertical integration, and that's education from healthcare providers to healthcare providers. So increasing knowledge around dementia, looking at how do we do care planning, looking at medication reviews, those types of things. And then the second part, which really has related to the Brenda Strafford Foundation work, is our horizontal integration. And that is looking at those leads within those doctors' offices, connecting with community partners to find out what resources actually already exist within the rural communities, within their specific community, and then what can they build from there. And through those connections, people are finding out about services that they didn't actually know existed. Some of them can be something like a cab company who you can set up an account with. And so then the person with dementia can just call the cab and they don't have to worry about the payment part of it. So that's something that existed already in a community and they can tap into using it right away. So through those organizations of the community coalitions, they've started to work on things like increased support groups for people, day programs, recreational activities with them. And as they've been building that, they recognize that what's going to support this work is dementia-friendly community work. And so we've been really fortunate to have Jennifer come out to, I think it's 4 communities now, and did kind of a lead into the work that they're presenting today. And so this work will continue on through these rural communities.
Thank you, and I think that's been a key as well, is that, you know, there's a lot of work going on in and around Alberta related to dementia care and dementia management and supports and services that are available. But when we did the community mapping project, it was amazing to us, even quite a ways into our project, that there were still resources that were coming to the table for that community mapping project. And not any one person can know what's out there and available. So having the ability to sort of coordinate that information, share that information so people can access all of what is available to them is also key to the success. So thank you for your contributions. Those are our panel members. If we could give them a little thank you for participating. And we do have a few minutes that we might be able to entertain a couple of questions if anybody has questions specifically for any of the panel members. Yes, sir. Yeah, you. Sorry.
Hi, I have a question for Derek in terms of the first responders. So you mentioned about awareness for the person with dementia when they're in a medical situation. I've asked this question before, but I'll ask it again to you directly. What if it was the care partner that was medical? Is there an awareness of built in the procedure or process around you're dealing with the caregiver and the other person that's there is the one living with dementia, really can't be left alone?
Yes, so if anyone didn't hear the question, it related to support for the caregiver. If, say, the first responders are assisting the caregiver, and support for the individual with dementia. And actually, just since the summer, I've heard of a handful of those exact situations where the caregiver went unconscious or had a heart attack, and the person with dementia was extremely agitated and upset, totally understandably. But we do have basically protocols where our officer off a truck will come in and he'll typically take the caregiver or the family members into another room and just sort of try to do a little separation, ask some questions, try to get more information. But in a situation like that, there have been a couple examples where we've actually called in another truck or another extra resources to just deal with individuals with dementia, to provide that support. And even once the ambulance takes the caregiver to the hospital, we're able to stay with that person until family or somebody else is able to attend.
Any other questions for a panel member? Okay, I think we're on to our next part of the agenda. Again, thank you to all the panel members, not just for participating today, but for all of your contributions to the project to date. And for those of you who are connected with these folks and in the audience, not on the panel, thank you as well, because without all of you, this project would not have gotten even off the ground, let alone been a success.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll move on. Hello, everyone. My name is Navjot Burke. I'm the Research and Innovation Practice Manager with the Brenda Strafford Foundation, as well as the Dementia Friendly Communities Project Manager. Thank you all for coming today. And as you just heard today, we had our Community Impact Panel, and I wanted to reiterate what Brenda just stated, that this project would not have been possible without their hard work, dedication, passion, commitment, and leadership that they've shown. I am very proud and excited to be able to share some of the tools that you can walk away today to make your communities more dementia friendly. But really, this is as a result of the hard work and commitment from all of our community members. So for those of you that are in the audience, thank you so much. And yeah, I really greatly appreciate all the work that's gone into this. So I will provide an overview of some key tools that you can walk away today to spread and scale dementia-friendly communities across Alberta. The first is a guide to creating dementia-friendly community. The second is a e-learning program that we did in collaboration with the First Lutheran Church. And then the third is the website. So the toolkit can be found in your swag bags as well as downloadable on a website, which I will review in a moment here. But what we did with the guide is really break it down into concrete phases or steps that you can take to make your communities more dementia friendly. And this guide is really meant to provide tips, tricks, tools, resources, templates, essentially just putting and combining together all of the lessons learned that we've had over the course of the 2.5 years. So we'll start off with the guide, and the first phase that we really describe in the guide is understanding the current state. When we first started with this project, it was actually quite incredible to learn the number of community resources and supports and groups that were already existing in the community. However, some of the challenges that we heard about is that folks didn't know what these resources were, how to navigate the system, et cetera. So this phase really describes how you can really get that big picture of the community, get an understanding of what the community profile is, how many individuals living with dementia, what types of services that are available, so that work is then duplicated and that you can move forward. So that's the first step. The second step is defining the ideal future state. And so this is where you can really dream big and think about, now that you have the bigger picture from the current state, really thinking towards what you would like to see when you develop a dementia-friendly community. And so this really helps shape the directions and the activities that the community coalition groups, many of which you just heard from the impact panel, really started to vision and imagine what could be possible. The third phase was a fun phase. It's assembling your action team, and your action team is really comprised of those key engaged group of stakeholders that will help drive the project forward. So in this phase of the toolkit and guide, we really explain how we went about this. Brian mentioned town hall earlier, which was really our first engagement that we've had with the community members, and we also detailed different ways that we structured committees and how we moved the project forward. The fourth phase is the plan of action, and the plan of action is really taking the first two phases where you understand your current state and then look at your future state and really mapping a roadmap in terms of how you're going to get there. And so in this, we really describe different themes and key areas that we worked on in the course of the project. I will emphasize here that every community is different, and we definitely saw that within the pilot project between the Okotoks and Calgary West Hills communities. And definitely as things move forward with communities and early adopters, such as the one that Helen mentioned with the FIGSI initiative, that there might be rural communities or other communities. And so we describe our plan of action in different areas that we've worked on, but of course that can be tailored to your local context and really speak to kind of what you gather in the first phase of the project. And then the fifth phase is implementing the plan. And so in this phase of the guide, we describe some of the initiatives that we undertook and the resources and things that we tapped into. So for example, intergenerational programming has been brought up a couple of times this afternoon. We've included things, PowerPoint presentations, templates, resources that we utilized with different schools, teaching plans, et cetera, that are all accessible for folks that wish to introduce similar programs in their communities. And then the fifth, or the last sixth, I'm losing my numbering, the sixth phase is really about leaving a legacy. And this is absolutely essential to ensure the sustainability of the initiatives going forward. And what I can say about this is that it was really fostered by strong partnerships and having key folks in the community drive things forward. I can provide a quick example with Kevin and Liz at the First Lutheran Church went out and sought their own grant funding to be able to produce an e-module, which I will be talking about momentarily, but it was really building and fostering those partnerships that helped leave a legacy and ensure that after the course of this pilot project is over, that these initiatives and programs remain impactful and remain sustainable in the community for the long run. So that's the guide. The second tool that I wanted to briefly mention today is this lovely website called www.dementiafriendlyalberta.ca. So on this website, we have the entire guide that's downloadable, as well as all the appendices that are referenced throughout the guide. So some of the appendices, as I've mentioned, include the resources that we've used, including, for example, volunteer position descriptions, brochures, and some of the educational training materials that we've utilized. And so please check that out. And the other piece of this that we really hope to see happen on this website, and there's contact information on that website, is to begin to foster a community of practice so that other communities that are embarking on this journey, that we can learn from each other, connect, ask questions, and grow. And so this website will help be a forum where we can begin to connect folks that are embarking on the dementia-friendly journey. And then the last one is the Dementia Awareness e-learning program. And again, this is the one that First Lutheran Church, in partnership with the Brenda Strafford Foundation, has created. It does provide general information about dementia and does mirror a lot of the education that we provided out in the communities. It's a free resource. It'll also be available on the website. And what it goes over is some myths about dementia. It goes over some risk reduction strategies. It goes over some key attributes for a dementia-friendly physical environment. And so this e-module is also available on that website that I just mentioned. Perfect. So now that summarizes the key tools. And again, our hope and intent of creating these tools are that the hard work and dedication and commitment of everyone over the pilot project can be spread and scaled across communities in Alberta. I will open the floor and take questions if you have anything for me or Jennifer or the rest of the team about these tools or the project in general. We would be happy to answer them. Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll just rephrase it. So it was kind of in terms of if there was care partners and individuals living with dementia, short of finding a cure, is there something else that they would wish for that perhaps wasn't addressed in the pilot project? I hope I got that right. Perfect. So I think one that comes straight to mind is really around navigating the system. We heard that so many times from folks in the community in terms of where to go, what door to go through, where you can go to get more help. And so I think that we've learned through the pilot project that there's been several different community partners and organizations striving to help folks navigate the system. I think there's progress in terms of helping with some of that, the community mapping and things that we did in our project, as well as having resource fairs. And I know Age Friendly, for example, has a whole committee that's working on that exact thing. And so that's one thing I think is work in progress, but it is something that we've often heard. Other resources that we've heard through the pilot that are working towards making sure people have high quality information information. For example, is the Dementia Connections magazine. I think that's another great tool. If folks have not heard of it, really a good step in the right direction to making sure that people have high quality information and information on available resources, but that's one thing that comes to mind. Any other questions? Julie? Absolutely, yeah. So just to reiterate the question, it was, what does the Brenda Strafford Foundation have planned beyond dementia-friendly communities in the future? And so one of the most remarkable impacts of this project has just been the groundswell of community support and community capacity that has happened as a result of the project. And as a foundation, we're very interested in helping serving residents within our manors, but also in our communities. And so when we embarked on this project, it was really thinking differently in terms of how can our manors be part of communities as a large. And so as a result of the success of this project, we are looking at expanding the concepts and looking at other ways we could do pilot projects and demonstration projects, while at the same time ensuring the sustainability of the partnerships that we've made. So one example that I can give concretely is that we're looking at elder friendly, making sure that it's not duplicating age friendly, but definitely looking at seniors in general. And I think it was reiterated in the panel that there are a lot of synergies when it comes to individuals living with dementia and looking at different elements that we could do potential future pilot projects. So that's what we have planned coming forward. Okay, great. Well, thank you again, everyone, for coming out tonight. And thank you again to all of our committee members. Really appreciate the hard work, and this project would not be possible without you. And I'll pass it back over to Jenny.
Thank you, Navjot. So I would like to invite the Brenda Strafford Foundation's board chair, Norma Jackson, to return for a brief presentation. This pilot project would not have been possible without the funding support and guidance of our provincial partners at the Government of Alberta, Alberta Innovates, and Alberta Health Services. We are honored to have representatives from our provincial partners join us today to celebrate the successful pilot project and launch of the guide to creating dementia-friendly communities in Alberta. At this point in time, I would like to call upon the Honourable Josephine Pon, Minister of Seniors and Housing, Ms. Brenda Kenny of Alberta Innovates, and Ms. Helen Lightfoot of Alberta Health Services. On behalf of the Brenda Strafford Foundation and our Dementia Friendly Communities teams, we would like to present your organizations with this token of appreciation for your generous funding support of the Dementia Friendly community. It is now my pleasure to invite Ms. Brenda Kenny, Alberta Innovates Board Chair, to say a few words on behalf of Alberta Innovates.
Well, I'll keep this brief, but it's been a pleasure to be able to join you for part of the proceedings today, and I just was, wow. I mean, it is incredible what this project and what these outcomes mean for community. I myself have I've gone through a journey with my own mother in advanced Alzheimer's and can relate very well to some of the opportunities. And this is just an amazing result. The breadth of partnerships. I think the word used in the last presentation was groundswell. That's certainly evident. And Alberta Innovates, the board I chair now, is the largest innovation and research agency in the province. And our role in these types of projects is to provide advice, entrepreneurial support, partnership management, and funding. And funding, that's always the most important part, right? But we just, it doesn't just simply start with innovation. We try to scan the horizon for ideas that are coming forward that can really change the world. And this is an excellent example. The Dementia Friendly Communities project is clearly one that is doing just that. And the results of things like the toolkit and the website, the e-learning, the memory cafes and the like are really incredible. I really feel as a Calgarian, as an Albertan, this also just exemplifies the power of partnership when we have something in our community that really matters and can come together. What you have done here in sharing competencies and in looking at that diverse landscape and the real needs within our communities and families is incredible. So to be able to access this collaboration and move it forward, we've just been so proud as Alberta Innovates to be a part of that, which results in bringing together these experts in dementia care and making sure that the funding is well placed and well utilized, and ultimately that together we can do a bit of a review and learn and really identify the path forward. So now we have the evidence. The partnership has demonstrated real change for seniors and their families, allowing them to age in place, and this is good for everyone. So I just personally, on behalf of our board at Alberta Innovates, our Minister, Tanya Furr, really just want to congratulate the Brenda Strafford Foundation, as well as all of these partners, and really look forward to seeing these tools in action. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda Kenny. Please welcome Ms. Helen Lightfoot, the Provincial Practice Lead for Seniors Health Strategic Clinical Network, to say a few words on behalf of Alberta Health Services.
Hello again. First, I want to thank everyone who has been part of this partnership to continue to create and make resources available for those who are living with dementia and those caring for them. We know that dementia is on the rise and affecting more families every day. Together, we'll continue to build the supports that Albertans need. Through Alberta Health Services, the Seniors Health Strategic Clinical Network, and the Seniors Health Provincial Team, we have been very involved in the development of the Alberta Dementia Strategy and Action Plan. In fact, Alberta Health Services has led 4 of the 5 working groups. The development of the dementia strategy is an example of the excellent partnership between Alberta Health and Alberta Health Services. With generous funding from Alberta Health Services has been able to implement many initiatives to support the dementia strategy. One initiative includes the implementation of the dementia advice through the HealthLink line. In fact, since this service has been available, the nurses have received 2,450 calls. Top reasons for calling include navigation and referral information, care partner stress, and behavior management concerns. Another initiative is addressing the appropriate use of antipsychotics in continuing care facilities, in which we are leading the country in minimizing. In 2016, Alberta Health Services provided 8 community innovation grants for people affected by dementia. The Brenda Strafford Foundation's Dementia Friendly Communities Toolkit is one of those initiatives. We are so honored and proud to see the toolkit come to fruition and move forward in the future. Our focus as a partner is to continue to build relationships with communities to get the toolkit out to those who need it. Thank you for all of your attendance today, and we look forward to seeing the advances to dementia awareness and support as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellen Lightfoot. Now it is my privilege to introduce the Honorable Josephine Pond, Minister of Seniors and Housing, to deliver closing remarks today on behalf of the Government of Alberta.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Jenny, for the kind introductions. This week, I have the opportunity and pleasures of meeting organizations that serve seniors and provide affordable housing throughout the northern Alberta. Each neighborhood, hamlet, town, and city has the unique culture and history, but they have as much in common too. Regardless of what part of the province you call home, you know that is to be an Albertan means to be friendly and welcoming to everyone. That's what today's celebration is about, ensuring our community are open to and supportive of everyone, especially people living with dementia. The Brenda Strafford Foundation has played a key role in leading this work in Calgary and Okotoks. Today, we celebrate the completion of their pilot project and the launch of the guide to create a dementia-friendly community in Alberta. The work the Government of Alberta is pleased to support. Through the creations of this resource, the foundation is helping build local capacity to ensure our community meet the needs of Albertans live with dementia. To the Brenda Strafford Foundation staff, thank you for sharing your experience and learning so that anyone, everywhere in Alberta can pick up the torch and get to work building a dementia-friendly communities in their hometown. These dedications to make life better for all Albertans is just one of the reasons our government is continued to strengthen communities. And partnership with local and nonprofit and charitable organizations like the Brenda Strafford Foundation. In fact, I'm so pleased to have Mike Colroyd from the foundations on my ministry advisory team, and thank you so much for his input. It's incredible, valuable. Today, we can continue to build community capacity to address dementia and reduce the stigmas associated with this chronic condition. Together, we can make Alberta the best place in North America to live, work, start a business, raise a family, and retire. Congratulations again. My deeply thanks to the Brenda Strafford Foundation for this important work. Your contributions will have a long-lasting impact on those living in dementia, their caregivers, and our province. And to all guests here today, I hope each one of you leave this event feeling empowered and to make a difference in your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Josephine Pond. Thank you once again to everyone for coming out today to celebrate the achievements of everyone that has been part of the immensely successful pilot project. Thank you to all the participants in our formal program. A special thank you to Neil Godfrey and the panel for sharing real stories and for making a difference. Thank you also to the Calgary Public Library for hosting us today. The library has been an important partner in this journey with us, and we are grateful that you have hosted us here in this wonderful new venue today. Feel free to stay and visit library this afternoon. Please remember to complete and submit your evaluation forms before you leave. They should be in your bag if you haven't done so already. We hope you are proud as we are of the work that has been achieved over the course of this pilot project. On behalf of the Brenda Strafford Foundation, thank you all for your support. And we hope that, like us, you all leave here today with a great sense of pride and hope for dementia-friendly communities in Alberta. Thank you.